about for this Holy Cross Boston College game. Good, bad, everything in between. We're going to wrap it up and get ready for Florida State on today's show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So we're on to episode number 3 of our autopsy of this Holy Cross game. Looking at what went right, what went wrong. And you've already heard me rant and rave over the last 2 episodes about the penalty issues. We already got into all of that. You already heard my thoughts about the defense with Mitch yesterday and how we're still concerned about the lack of pressure that they're getting. If you have not already checked those episodes, get that right now. But I want to get into a little bit of positive stuff here. And we're so mired into the negatives of the things that aren't working for Boston College and the things that aren't happening. I want to give some shout outs to players that had strong games, the players that did have good scores. And the way that we're going to do this is looking at Pro Football Focus. Now, Pro Football Focus isn't perfect. It's a scouting report. People watch the games, they give scores out. But it's a good indicator of where a specific player is. They get, they look at a lot of different metrics about how a player performs. And I wanted to give you, just so you could see, the top 3 players on offense and the top 3 players on defense and tell you a little bit about why they made it onto this. On offense, the number 1 player on offense, I think this is the one that's going to floor a lot of people. It wasn't Kai Robichaux. It was Jaden Williams. Jaden Williams, who had that horrible fumble that I believe he the one that gave it away. I forget if he was the one that gave it away or not, but he fumbled the ball. And he scored an 82, which is one of BC's highest scores in the last 2 years, which is crazy. That means he's had a good game offensively, right? You're looking at his scores. You're seeing that he had, a couple good catches and finished the game. Where is it? I'm trying to find his score right now. And he had 2 targets on 2 receptions for 70 yards. Yeah, he had that big catch at the end of the first half. He had a 78.8% receiving grade, which is a huge increase because he had 0 drops. Again, drops were such a big issue. And I think that has to be, of all the yuck that we saw last week, against Holy Cross, the fact that they didn't drop the ball once is at least that they fixed something. Now, can they fix the penalties? My God, I got to get off of that, right? Second on their list was Ozzie Trapilo. Ozzie Trapilo had a 77.2 rating and an 83 score on blocking, pass blocking. He allowed 0 hurries, 0 pressures. That's about as perfect as it gets, right? He played 72 snaps. I said at the beginning of this year that Trapilo would be one of the guys I'd watch for to step up. Now, they moved him to right tackle, right? They moved him over so that they could put Logan Taylor, who is not on this list because he kind of had a tough game. His score wasn't awful, but his pass blocking wasn't very good. He let up 2 pressures. But Trapilo was someone we've been hoping to see step up. And yes, it's against Holy Cross, and yes, it's against NIU. But as I said on yesterday's show, look at the blocking grades against Maine last year. Look at his blocking grade. It wasn't good. So that's good. And then the final offensive score is, I'm going to give you 2 because it's not fair because one only played 18 snaps in the whole game. But I want to shout this one out to my sometimes host, Mitch Wolf. Number 3 in the offense was Jack Conley. Jack Conley played only 18 snaps. He did not allow any pressures, and he scored a 76.2 in run block and a 66 in pass block. Now, Kai Robichaux was right behind him. If I'm being honest with the scoring, though, Jack Conley did outscore Kai Robichaux, which is crazy, right? But he had a good game. Again, how will this translate against Florida State? I'm not getting into that right now. Now, defensively, the number one player, and I think he was number one overall for this team, just in general, is Vinny DePalma. I am low-key loving watching Vinny DePalma play. Also, he looks like a pugilist when he takes his helmet off. I mean, he's got that nose that looks like it's been broken like 800 times. He looks like a turn-of-the-century bare fist boxer. And that's the perfect kind of guy you want on your defense. He did not miss a single tackle. He had 9 tackles in the game and 1 assist. And obviously he had the game-winning play. Now, he had an 85.8% score in pass in coverage and 85 in tackling. His run defense wasn't all that great with 63.1. His pass rush wasn't all that great. So, I mean, it's against Holy Cross, and I think those kind of grades bear that out, right? Like, you're seeing a guy do the things against Holy Cross that you'd want to, except the pass rush. I don't know. I think you hope, I think you would hope it would be a little higher, but he has the highest grade. Number 2 was, I thought I honestly, over the last 2 games, have thought he's been the toughest player that they've had. It's Cam Horsley. I've thought Cam Horsley's had the strongest defensive game of the 2. He looks like an honest to gosh defensive tackle at this point. Like, he's a guy that, like, he's big. He's clogging things up. He had 3 hurries in this game, 3 tackles, and a 79.3. I don't think he had any missed tackles. If you were looking for who had the most missed tackles, it was Neto Ekpala and John Pupil. So those were the top 2, and number 3 was Sheeta Salah. Again, not a big surprise. He had 3 tackles, a sack, 2 hurries. I mean, he was the BC's best pass rusher in the game. So he was the best. These are the scores. I just wanted to kind of, go over it a little bit. You guys want to know the lowest? I think you probably do, right? And these are worrisome. I got to say, 2 of your starting linebackers are 2 guys that have been kind of cycling in at linebacker. Jalen Blackwell, Owen McGowan are 2 of the 2 bottoms. And Elijah Jones had a 50. I know he got torched a few times, and he's not had a good start to his season. Those are, I circle and I go, Blackwell, yeah, you need to figure some things out with that other linebacker position, but Jones, that gives me a lot of worries when you're going to be lining him up either against Keon Coleman or Johnny Wilson next week. So those are just some thoughts. Those are the Pro Football Focus grades. Anything surprise you? Leave it in the comments. I have all of the grades up. If you want to see every player that played, I have their snap counts and grades up on Eagle Insider for our VIP. So check that out as well. Now, in a moment, I want to look at some injury news because I want to talk about what happened and where things are at with 2 big injuries that happened this week. We'll get into that in just a moment. But before we do that, I love going to games. I am a big time game person. I also love going to theater and concerts too. Now, buying tickets, I find it stressful a lot of times. When you go to some of the other, either ticket resellers or the big ticket places, you're either waiting in line or you're dying to get a ticket and you can't get it. Shouldn't be stressful. Game Time, though, they make it fast and easy for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you could stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Now, I have been looking, and I have said, you can get BC tickets for like $1 on there. And, you're going to have to pay a couple dollars in fees. But, hey, when you use the Game Time app for the first time and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege, you'll get $20 off. That means you could go probably see BC and Florida State if you want to this weekend for absolutely nothing. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And they have a ticket, a seat viewer where you can see where you're going to sit. That's great. No surprises. It's all right there for you. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. Later this week, we're going to start diving into Florida State. I'm thinking we're going to probably end up doing a crossover episode with Locked On Noles. Hear me go at it with them for a little bit. I'm not going to put up much of a fight because you guys know where we're at right now. But I want to talk a little bit about injuries and look at where BC is at. So over the first couple of weeks, we've seen a couple guys go down. First week, we saw Nigel Tate go down. We haven't seen him back yet. I don't know. It looked like a leg injury, but you never know. And they're not talking about it, so we're not going to find out. After Hafley said that there were not going to be any injuries going into Florida State, into Holy Cross this week, we saw that Alex Broome was on the injured list and didn't play. It was a minor injury, according to the staff. But again, I take a lot of this with a grain of salt because they're doing gamesmanship where they don't have to tell you anything. It doesn't serve them any purpose. So he was gone. And then there was the interesting journey of Pat Garwo, who had 2 rushes for 14 yards. And then Mark Herzlich said on the broadcast that he was going to be out or they were just not using him because they're going to ride the hot hand of Kai Robichaux, excuse me. And then 2 quarters later, they showed him on the sideline with a boot on in street clothes. Then we hear, oh no, actually he's hurt his ankle. He's going to be out. So let's get into where the injuries are actually at right now. Again, this is according to the staff. I'm not a doctor. I cannot hold their feet to the flame here. I'm telling you what they tell us. And sometimes it's, I think they try to be sincere, but sometimes things change and who knows. Alex Broome should be back this week against Florida State. They expect him to play. He sounds like he's good to go. Positive, right? Pat Garwo is less so. They don't know what's going on, but they were saying, he's got something going on with his ankle. They're going to test to see how swollen it is. He wants to play, but they're not sure. So he sounds more like a game time decision. I would guess that Garwo is not going to play. Especially if there's this impending hurricane that could be coming in that could really make things wet. The last thing you want is a guy who's playing on a bum ankle to go out there and play in a slick field in a game that, let's be honest, folks, probably isn't a big chance you're going to win it. And I don't think Pat Garwo is going to make the biggest difference over Alex Broome and Kai Robichaux. So I don't think he will play. There were other injuries, but they haven't really talked much about them. Owen Stodmeyer, I saw go down against Holy Cross. I don't think he played all. I have his snaps in front of me, and I just didn't even bother looking. He played 8 snaps the whole game. 13 snaps, sorry. 8 plus 5 is 13. He played 13 snaps the whole game. So, that's kind of what you expected. I don't know how, where those snaps came in, but it looked like he didn't play all that much. So they're pretty healthy other than that running back position. Am I concerned about the running back position? Well, if Alex Broome is actually going to play, they say he's going to play, but again, I don't know. Sometimes they say this and then you hear he's out and he's out for like 4 weeks. If he doesn't play, you're down to Cameron Bartfield and you are down to Kai Robichaux. That is a thin running back room. You have Dontrell Jones, who I have not heard anything about this season. He's a true freshman from Catholic Memorial. You have Andre Hines, who I don't think has ever played. So you got some guys back there. And, I honestly think they would go with like Jackson Treaster before they would. And I don't even know if he's on the roster. I feel like they just throw him out there every time they need a running back. But hopefully Broome will be back. You need 3 guys. You need to get things going. So Marty Party has a question about this, and I want to get to it. You think they'd move the game up to Friday night to avoid Lee's fury? I don't know how bad the storm is going to be. I haven't looked. I've heard it's going to rain on Saturday. I don't know how badly it's going to rain. So Hurricane Lee is supposed to hit Boston. But I don't know how much of the force is going to hit. Like, if we're up here in the Northeast, and these hurricanes usually lose a lot of steam before they hit up here. So it could just be a really rainy day. I think back to when I was back as a fan, going to the Buffalo game. Was it like 2014, 15? I forget when it was, but it was like an absolute monsoon. And I sat through that one. I was drenched to the bone, absolutely soaked. But maybe it'll just be a game like that. And you know what? A game like that will keep the score down a little bit, right? That's not the worst thing in the world. Now, in our final segment, so injuries, that's my updates right there. Not a lot. In our updates, I want to talk to you about what Hafley talked about in his press conference. I'll give you some of the details of what he's been bringing up, and I will get into all of that in just a moment. Now, before I do that, I'll tell you all about FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NFL season with incredible offers for the America's #1 sports book. Right now, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now, if you're watching right now, I'm recording this at 8:47. I put down a nice little bet on the Jets to win on Monday Night Football, and then I just opened my phone and saw that Aaron Rodgers getting carted off. So, not good. But I had a good weekend in college football bets. I got the Texas bet right, and the best part of the website is it's so easy. You can easily go on there, and now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. We're going to wrap this episode up by talking about what Jeff Hafley had to say in his Florida State press conference. Now, you had the usual questions. My favorite is when they ask him about the opponent because I guess some writers find it interesting to hear him just rattle off every position and tell you they're great with no real insight into any of it. This guy is good. This position's good. This position's good. This position's good. This position's good. This position. Yeah, great. But they did talk about some things that I thought were really important. He brought up the personal foul issue. We're going to continue bringing this up because it was such a big issue in Saturday's game against Holy Cross. And he said it was addressed. They watched every single penalty as a team. And he said it was not a pleasant meeting to be in. I hope so. My hope is that through all of this, that Jeff Hafley has more of a harder streak to him because that team needs to hear it. There's going to be penalties, as he said, that are going to happen. And even like Neto Ekpala's hands to the face was awful, but it was sloppy, but it wasn't like embarrassing. Like a certain person who had a couple of really embarrassing calls, right? He insists that he will bench players if they continue to do this kind of stuff. I want to see it to believe it. I hope that the players themselves are going to police this stuff so that it doesn't happen again. They have enough leadership in that locker room, you would think, with Vinny DePalma and Christian Mahogany and these other guys that really want to go out there and go out on a high note and have worked their tails off to let off these personal foul things to go ahead and bite them in the butt like this. So you got to hope that piece is going to come through. Against Florida State, I would be stunned if they have these issues against Florida State because they're not going to have a lot of opportunities to gloat, I would imagine. Maybe they will, but I hope that they don't get so frustrated if they fall behind big that they start making dumb penalties and turn a bad loss into like a cringy one, right? So that was one thing that came up. He did confirm that Thomas Castellanos will be the starter. I mean, that wasn't a huge surprise, but he did bring that up. He talked about the importance of the 9/11 red bandana game. We haven't had a chance to really talk about this week, but we will when we talk about Florida State. We're recording on 9/11, and Wells Crowther, this story never gets old. It's a special moment, and as he said too, I agree. I'm so glad that it's happening on the game around 9/11 this year and not in like November like they've had it in the past. This should be a fun one for BC. Not a fun one, but a really special game. I'm sorry, didn't mean to say fun. I meant special. It's a special game for Boston College with, a lot of events, and Wells's dad is no longer there anymore. He passed away a couple of years ago. His mom usually comes to all the games. They wear the special uniforms, they play tributes. It's always a good, they have the military there. It's always a lot of good stuff, and he brought that up as well. I think that was only the big things that he brought up. There's a lot that you can go back and listen to his comments and things like that. Now tomorrow we're going to turn the page and get ready for Florida State, who is now I've seen 25 points and 28.5. I can't get FanDuel's spread around here because I live in Boston. If you live outside of Boston, you can get it. I think it was at 28.5 last I saw. And we'll talk about why this is going to be a real tough game for Boston College, and all the issues that are going to be coming through when they head to Chestnut Hill. So thank you all so much. You can follow me at AJBlack247. I'm on Threads. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Get it. Go sign up on Eagle Insider as well. Hit the subscribe button and like button if you like this podcast. Thank you so much. We'll be back again tomorrow for another episode, and we will see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.